It's going to be great, though. That has to be a great fight.
Yeah, Horiguchi, that's probably your best fight on the card. Yeah, and Dana, they had their first Zuffa boxing match, right? And then they had their second last night. They're playing, people are making fun of them and all this, like, oh, this is the way you make splashes in boxing. It's a slow build. They're slowly building it. I would not bet against Dana White. And this is where I agree with Max. If you're going to talk about fighter pay, it's actually a different discussion. My whole thing, why I think Dana and Zuffa is good for boxing, is because where boxing's headed now, it's still all over, and there's like 5 or 6 guys that make all the money, and then you don't really get the fights we want to see unless Turki Al-Sheikh comes in and pays them this enormous amount of money. So the reason why I do think Zuffa can help boxing, because boxing as of late is dying, and you can only depend on Jake Paul for so long. But for the longevity of boxing, you need some sort of structure. You need some sort of business structure, marketing business plan that's going to maintain the integrity of boxing and establish order, so the younger generation who aren't falling in love with boxing unless it's Jake Paul, they're not watching Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez, these young kids, right? So you need to establish some sort of regular fight nights, boxing nights, and that's what Dana's going to do. Now, you guys are going to argue, well, yeah, then he's going to take down the pay and stuff. Well, let's talk about the pay. So right now, a lot of the issue is because Turki Al-Sheikh's coming in, he's paying these guys these enormous amount of money. These guys think that's their value, but nobody's making money except the top 4 or 5 boxers. They're making more money than God. But the promotions, the people that own these promotions and these events aren't making it. They're not getting their money back on that. So Dana's going to come in and kind of settle that down, where they're still going to make good money, but they're not making $100 million a fight. Like, that's insane. You can't run a business like that. It doesn't make sense. So Dana's going to come in. He's actually going to establish order and regularity and create a business model so boxing grows. And you have it on Netflix. You have it on Paramount. Because right now, you basically, in America, we only have it on DAZN. So that's why I think it's a good thing, man. I really do. I know the boxing world gets upset at that. Clearly, Dana and Zuffa figured something out with MMA. We're the only ones left. They're the only ones turning a profit. Everybody else, listen to me very carefully. Everybody else who's ever ran an MMA organization has never made a profit. Listen to me right now. In the history of mixed martial arts, no organization has ever made a profit. The UFC makes billions of dollars. Yeah, because they don't pay the fighters. Whatever the fuck it is, they're the only combat sports organization in the history of combat sports to make money. Him getting involved in boxing is a good thing. If you want to talk about fight pay, that's a different discussion. I'm talking about for the longevity and to grow the sport and actually make stars and get people to tune in and care about the boxers. There's nobody better. Oh, you're a bootlicker. Okay, sure. But history will show there's only one guy that's ever figured it out in the history of combat sports. Ever. And that guy's focused on boxing now. How do you think it's going to go? You don't think he's going to bring back Sunday night fights and shit like that? Because right now, for the younger generation, they're looking up to Jake Paul. Here's the problem. Again, love Jake, friend of mine. Here's the problem with that. Jake Paul hasn't boxed long enough to be the face of boxing for the younger generation. So if the younger generation only cares about when Jake Paul fights, which who knows how many he has left, they're going to watch it, and the younger generation is going to mimic that style. What's his style? Bad footwork, bad cardio. It's not his fault. He hasn't been boxing that long. Wouldn't you rather them have tons of stars to watch and mimic, like Shakur Stevenson? Wouldn't you rather have them look up to a kid like that who can box his fucking ass off, who has talent for days, who's a legit boxer, Olympic pedigree, has been boxing since he was like fucking 6. These are the stories we need to tell. These are the stars we need the younger generation to look up to. That's what you need. You know how much bigger these guys, even currently, Canelo, different story, but like an Usyk, some of these other guys, if you had the UFC's marketing machine behind some of these guys, you know how much bigger stars they would be? They'd be massive, massive. That's why I think it's good. Yeah, but the monopoly, shut it. That's a different discussion. I'm just talking as far as what's good for boxing. Because let's say Dana didn't get involved. Okay, what's the plan? Go. Love to hear it. What's the plan? You're just going to rely on Turkey Al-Sheikh paying up the wazoo to the fights you want to see? Until then, what? And then where's the TV right deals in America? Then what? What are you guys going to do? What are you going to do? You rely on Jake Paul to give these one-offs once a year on Netflix for views? You think that's going to keep the interest of the boxing hardcores? No. What are you going to do? That's why it's good. That's all I'm saying. For the health and the growth of boxing, there couldn't be a better guy for the job. That's it. And so when Max Kellerman says, I've been waiting all my life for Zuffa boxing, he's saying because it actually establishes order and structure to boxing. When you have all these promoters, you're not getting the fights you want to see for a variety of reasons. And when you do, it's too late and there's no consistency. And this guy fights maybe once a year. This guy maybe takes 2 years off. No. All that shit stops when you get a king to run this shit. When you get somebody who looks at like a business and you get consistency. And now those fighters, all right, maybe you're not making $50 million a fight, but you're fighting 3 times a year. And it's on CBS. It's on Paramount. It's on Netflix. So maybe you're not getting that one huge payday and then going away and then retiring, coming out of retirement. It's a shit show. That's all I'm saying. That's why he's good for boxing. He's the only one to figure it out. Sure, there's a lot of reasons why people don't like him. I get all of that. I'm just saying as far as a business model, this is exactly what boxing needs to continue to grow. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Brendan Schaub goes off and loses it on this huge rant saying Dana White needs to be in charge of boxing. Never mind, less than a week ago, Brendan Schaub was complaining about fighter pay and how he would never let his kids get into fighting and stuff. So completely contradictory. But you have to understand the reason why Bappa is doing this. He is so desperately trying to get back into the good graces of Dana White. Because every time Schaub has gone up against Dana White publicly, Dana White has destroyed him. Every single time. And that's what happens. Bappa goes up against someone, either Dana White or Ariel Helwani or Steve will do it. Schaub will run his mouth. They'll respond, destroy Schaub, and then he'll come and apologize and then kiss their asses and beg them to be his friend. So that's what he's doing with Dana. And Schaub is like banned from all the UFC events. And he would so desperately love to get back into him. I bet you he thinks that that's a barrier and that's the thing stopping his career from blowing up. If only he was allowed to go to the UFC events. He's being hindered by Dana, but he has to kiss up to Dana so Dana will let him back in the mind of Bappa. This is the mind of a redact, the mind of an idiot. But the whole rant there, my God. Now Bappa is a boxing expert, all because of that stupid Ring Awards thing. By the way, I am working on something with that Ring Awards thing. I'm working on it. Don't worry. But as far as this, I mean, Bappa, the guy kissing up to Dana White now, and then I'm sure months from now, unbeknownst to Schaub, he'll trash Dana. Dana will see it, and then Dana will respond and destroy Schaub once again. That's usually how this ebbs and flows. This is just Bappa. He gets destroyed on a regular by everybody. and then he cries about it. But he so desperately wants to get back into the UFC stuff, especially. I mean, he got to fly out, bring the wife. Papa thought he was back in the scene. He wants back in that scene, and he thinks the way to get there is kissing up to Dana White. But let me know your thoughts in the comments.